They called me at 7 in the morning. Unknown number. A woman's voice. Quiet. Steady. Like someone who had rehearsed this conversation 100 times before finally making the call. Alina. My name is Nadia Koval. I'm a private investigator. I was hired to give you information about your mother. I lay there staring at the ceiling. My mother died when I was 3 years old. A pause. Then she answered softly. No, she didn't. I met her that same day. Nadia Koval. 40 years old. Short hair. Eyes that evaluated you before you even sat down. She placed a folder on the table. Didn't open it. Just left it there between us. Before I show you this, she said calmly, I need to know one thing. Do you really want the truth? Not part of it. All of it. I stared at the folder. 27 years of a photograph on a shelf. 27 years of flowers on a grave. 27 years of questions without answers. Who hired you? I asked. Nadia didn't respond immediately. Then quietly said, she did. I don't remember my mother. I was 3 years old when my father told me she died. Car accident. Quick. She didn't suffer. He said it once. And never spoke about her again. Eventually, I learned not to ask. There was always a photograph on the shelf. Young woman. Dark hair. A smile untouched by whatever came later. I looked at that photograph every morning for almost 30 years. Nadia finally opened the folder. Photographs. Documents. An address. The woman in the new pictures was older than the woman from my shelf. Gray strands and dark hair. Older eyes. But the same smile. The exact same smile. She lives in Kharkiv now, Nadia said. She's married. 2 children. Her oldest daughter is 20. 20. I immediately started counting years in my head. She left me when I was 3. 7 years later, she had another child. 7 years after leaving the first one behind. She hired you to find me, I said slowly. Why didn't she contact me herself? Nadia folded her hands together. She was afraid you wouldn't answer. Or that you would answer in a way worse than silence. I said nothing. She wanted to know how your life turned out first. Who you became. Whether you were happy. I stared at the photographs. What I became, I repeated quietly. I took the folder home. Spent hours sitting at the kitchen table looking through every photograph one by one. Her at some family celebration. Her near the sea. Her standing beside a gray-haired man with kind eyes. Her beside a dark-haired girl who looked exactly like her. Which meant she looked like me too. I walked to the mirror and stared at my own reflection for a very long time. Dark hair. Same jawline. Same eyes. For 30 years, I looked at my mother's photograph and never saw myself in it. Because I wasn't searching for resemblance. Meanwhile, she looked at her younger daughter every day. And saw me.
I called Nadia later that evening. What exactly did she want to know about me? A short pause. Everything, Nadia answered. What you do for work. Whether you're happy. Whether there are people close to you. Then she hesitated. She especially asked if you had children. I tightened my grip on the phone. Why would she ask that? I think she wanted to know whether you became a mother yourself. Silence. And what came from that? After we hung up, I sat alone in the dark for a long time. She wanted to know if I had repeated her mistake. The next morning I met Nadia again. This time I didn't ask about my mother. I asked about my father. Did he know she was alive? Nadia looked at me carefully. Yes. The word hit harder than I expected. He always knew. My father opened the door and immediately understood. He saw it in my face. Without a word, he stepped aside and let me in. We sat in the kitchen. He turned on the kettle. His hands, the same large dependable hands I'd known my entire life, were trembling slightly. How long have you known? I asked. Always. You lied to me for 30 years. He didn't deny it. Instead he said quietly. She asked me to tell you she was dead. I refused at first. Then I agreed. Why? He stared down into his cup. She said it would be easier for the child. His voice cracked slightly. She told me. A child who waits suffers more than a child who lets go. I thought about the little girl who brought flowers to a grave every year. I never let go, Dad, I said softly. I just believed there was nobody left to wait for. He closed his eyes. Nadia called the next day. She wants to know if you're ready to meet. I stayed silent for a long time. Then asked, what did you tell her about me? The truth, Nadia replied. That you're a psychologist. That you live alone. That your father is healthy. She stopped briefly. What else? That you look like her. I looked away instinctively after hearing that. Externally, Nadia added quietly, very much. The following day I met Nadia again. This time I handed her a folded sheet of paper. I want you to give this to her. Nadia took it without unfolding it. And one more thing, I said. I want to know something you learned during this investigation. She waited. Why now? Nadia said nothing. Why 30 years later? Why not earlier? Why not later? Nadia watched me silently for several seconds, then answered. Her older daughter is pregnant. I felt something tighten inside my chest. She's about to become a grandmother, Nadia continued. And she realized she couldn't become a grandmother to one child while knowing nothing about the other. I sat there absorbing that. Nothing had changed about me. Time hadn't magically healed anything. She simply found a new reason to come back. And the old reason, me, had been standing untouched on a shelf for 27 years. Waiting. Nadia returned 3 days later. She sat down across from me and placed an envelope on the table. She wrote back, she said quietly, then paused. She cried while reading your letter. I looked up slowly. I saw her through the cafe window, Nadia continued. She just sat there crying and never wiped the tears away. I picked up the envelope carefully. You gave her everything exactly as I wrote it? Word for word. I didn't open the envelope for 3 days. It stayed on the kitchen table beside my mother's photograph. On the 4th morning I made coffee, sat down, and finally opened it. Inside was a single handwritten page. The handwriting felt unfamiliar, and somehow deeply familiar at the same time. The angle of the letters, the spacing between words. It looked almost like my own handwriting reflected through uneven glass. She wrote about the morning she packed her bags, about what she told herself before leaving, about how she imagined my life all these years in painfully specific detail. My first day of school, my university graduation she never saw, the versions of me she built in her mind year after year. At the very end she wrote one sentence. I am not asking for forgiveness. I ask only one thing. If you ever want to look me in the eyes and ask me anything, I will be there. I called Nadia afterward. What exactly was in my letter? I asked. Silence. You asked me not to read it. I know what I wrote, I said quietly. I want to know one thing. When she started crying, what part was she reading? Nadia was silent for a moment. The beginning. Almost immediately. I closed my eyes, because I remembered exactly what I had written. Only one sentence. I still remember the smell of your sweater. Nadia called again the following morning. She wants to know when and where you'd feel comfortable meeting. I stood near the window. Outside it was an ordinary morning. People walking to work. Someone carrying coffee. Someone taking a child to school. An ordinary city. An ordinary day. And somewhere inside it lived a woman who still remembered me as a 3-year-old child. Tell her, I said slowly, that I'll call her back. When? I thought about it carefully. When I'm ready. I still haven't called. But I did one thing. I took her photograph off the shelf, turned it toward me, and for the first time in my life I looked at her not as someone dead, but as someone alive. I stared at that face for a very long time, and for the first time in 30 years, I realized I had no idea what I was feeling. Not grief, not anger, not happiness. Something else. Something I still don't know the name for. Maybe that's what a beginning feels like.